there's a geologist that was interviewed on the podcast, and she's a Minnesota native. And in her geology terrain in Minnesota, she canoed and walked and biked and hiked pretty much the whole state. And so she starts talking about the Mississippi River, and the headwaters of the Mississippi are actually in the Twin Cities up there, Minneapolis and St. Paul. And she says, the city gets to enjoy it, and that's great. And then the wastewater goes into the Mississippi, and the actual processing, the water treatment plant is of course downstream from there. And so she's discussing the ins and outs of the water treatment processing and how we get our drinking water. And so they introduce oxygen, and the solids float up to the surface, and you're removing non-flushable items and baby wipes and all this stuff that people are throwing down the toilet. And so the problem is our water treatment to date is not currently taking into account all the things that are in our waste. So we're at least lagging a few decades behind. And so, yes, is our water drinkable? Yes. Is it creating foodborne and waterborne illnesses and spreading bacteria everywhere? No. So we fixed the problems that essentially existed in the Royal Mile in Scotland, 1,000 years ago, almost 1,000, maybe 500 years ago now, where diseases spread like wild because you're literally putting feces and waste into your food supply. But we're doing it now in a different way. And so what she says is these toxins are accumulating in high enough levels downstream from the Twin Cities that they're affecting the fish population in slow reaches of the river. So the one specifically she refers called Lake Pepin. In that lake, 73%, so 3/4 of the smallmouth bass that were sampled had both male and female genitalia. I'm going to say that again. So fish, which reproduce via male and female, smallmouth bass, 73% of them were male and female parts, 73%. So let that sink in. And she, of course, can't go into the specifics because, like Michael's commenting here, chemicals are not being removed. Birth control hormones are not being removed. Drug metabolites, so somebody taking a statin, somebody taking a high blood pressure medication, somebody taking an anti-anxiety medication, the body processes and eliminates those chemicals, those toxins from the medications. They end up in the toilet. That water gets flushed right back into our system. And of course, water treatment is not designed to remove those things. So they're in your tap water. So I hope this wakes you up to the fact that, of course, none of you would not be here if you didn't care about your health. You wouldn't have shown up here if you didn't want to reduce toxicity. So of course you want to reduce toxicity, but I'm telling you that there are blind spots all over the place that you don't even realize exist. You're not doing it on purpose. You're not poisoning yourself on purpose, but the plastic cup you drank out of, the tap water that, or even the groundwater that our fruits and vegetables are grown in, these things are finding their way into your system. So tonight, I don't want this to be about being perfect, because the tendency, if you want to be perfect, is you give up. And I've heard that from people I'm like, hey, get on the webinar. You need to hear this. There's some people that say, listen, I know I'm toxic and there's nothing I can do about it. And that's not true. It's, you're toxic and you're not choosing to do anything about it. Totally different. So as we go into this tonight, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. I don't want this to be exhausting. I don't want you to leave this negative. You're going to leave this empowered, knowing that everything in your ability you can minimize. And by doing so, you're going to change your life and impact the next generation. Because we not only have a toxic generation now, but it's not getting any better. I hate to admit it and I hate to tell you, but you are living in one of the most toxic times on earth. And although we have these incredible conveniences because of it, and we have some incredible inventions and science behind what we've been able to create to allow these modern conveniences, there's always a price to pay. There's no such thing as a free lunch. And so my job tonight is to outline for you where these things may be affecting you, how they're getting into your system, and some ways that you can eliminate them so they're not unknowingly causing effects in your life that you don't want. And I'll tell you this, it's way more inconvenient to be sick than it is to take the extra step in changing your supplies, your routines, and your healthcare products. So your beauty products and self-care products. So according to the Global Healing Center, the average person could be exposed to, on a daily basis, 2.1 million different chemicals. And the more we learn about these chemicals, the higher that number is going to go. Now, some of these things we were designed to come in contact with, and our body knows what to do with them. Some of these other things we were never meant to be exposed to. And so our bodies are not yet developed to live in an environment like that. Someday they may, or they may not. But we have to worry about this now. 70,000 chemicals used commercially, 3,000 different chemicals added to our food supply chain, 10,000 plus chemicals in food processing, preservation, food storage. And we now know this isn't fringe science. This is the EPA is saying your house is a minimum of 5 times worse than the outdoor air. And if you're living in new construction, 100 times more toxic your indoor air versus outdoor air. So we'll hit on some strategies on how to deal with that. So toxins are all over the place. They're found in supply. They're found in cleaning products. They're found all over the place. And so the main ones I'm going to be hitting on tonight, as you can see, are food, water, environmental, cosmetics, cleaners, containers, food storage, those things. These are the main exposures you're getting in your life. It's virtually everything we interact with on a daily basis. And so it requires you to go through your entire routine and the choices you're making. And there are blind spots. There are a few blind spots that I had this year. And so this is not a prideful conversation. This is an admission saying, hey, I just want to continually get better each and every day and protect myself as much as I can from the things that I know that are dangerous, and keep learning about the ones that I may not even know. Toxins are responsible for damaging your DNA, damaging your enzymes, using up your protective enzymes like glutathione, superoxide dismutase, catalase. These enzymes are being used up instead of on cell regenerative processes to protect you against chemicals. So we have to up our defenses when we're toxic. They damage your DNA. So there's tons of different kinds of toxins, and they damage the body in different ways. And we're learning a lot about these. But one of the main disruptions they have is they mess up your hormones. And that's what we're starting to see now, younger and younger each time, younger women having massive hormone imbalances, because it's just more obvious in women. It's not that men aren't being affected. Men are being affected just as much. We know sperm counts are dropping rapidly. They say literally 30% of the sperm count now than what used to be there 50 years ago. So massive reduction, a 70% reduction. They disrupt not only that, but they can cause impaired function. And so these are just some of the issues you may see if you are toxic. And this is some of your friends, some of your family members, some of your neighbors, and I hope to God not your kids, but this is why we're talking about this. Cancers, reproductive and developmental disorders, focus issues, neurological problems, numbness, tingling, burning, autoimmune diseases, joint and muscle discomfort and disorders are a big issue. I see people every day with chronic joint pain, and a lot of that has to do not only with their biomechanics, not only their lifestyle, their chronic positioning, but their toxicity levels, what's in the blood, mood swings, memory loss, headaches, lung issues, brittle or weak hair loss, So I know where mine came from, but thank God not toxicity. 95% of all cancer is attributed to diet and toxins. So I'm going to say that again. And this is a huge slide that we do have to spend a little bit of time on. I have bad genes is what the predominant theory, the prevailing theory is with cancer. And I'll say this, if you can study and say that 90 to 95% of a cancer is based on your lifestyle, it's not your genes. You are born with a genetic code from your mom and dad. That genetic code is a living library that your body uses based on the environment, external environment, to create an internal environment. It's like a cookbook. It's like a how-to book. And so depending on which genes you express, which books you read, and how you live, you can read bad books. You can make bad recipes, or you can make good ones. And so the newer prevailing theory of epigenetics proves that our bodies don't rely solely on a genetic code. You are not a prisoner of your genes. Instead, your genes are just going to respond to the environment. So how you live will change how you express your genes. And we've seen this. There are countries like Denmark and Sweden that they keep great records on twins, and they'll study twins that are separated, identical twins, meaning their genetic code is the exact same. And based on their lifestyle, they can see up to 500% increase in cancers where one twin gets it and one twin doesn't. So we know it's not the genetics. Otherwise, there'd be no escaping it. You'd separate these twins, they'd live different lives, and they'd both get the same disease at the same time because your genes don't change. So I want to liberate you from the paradigm that you are a prisoner of your genes. Hopefully I can get an amen on that, because the more you abdicate responsibility for your health, the more you're told it's not your fault, the more you're told, hey, it's just bad luck, it's bad genes, the less responsibility you take for your health and the poorer outcomes you're going to have. And it's a huge responsibility, not only on you, but on your friends and family. So we're going to be hitting this theme called exit conventional tonight. And what that really means is this old conventional way of thinking that has come about in really the last 50 years, where bad genes, bad germs, bad luck, fast food is great, quick convenience things are what matter the most. This is a very conventional way of thinking, and it's what's led America to its massive health problems, trillions of dollars every year. Our biggest burden on the country is the fact that nobody is taught from a young age that you need to be responsible for your health. So when I say exit conventional, we're going to be hitting that as a theme, is this is where you're switching in your mind how you're thinking about the things you use, the way you use them, the products in your life, and you're really going to leave this creating some new habits. And I'm going to make you, hopefully you're at home, and hopefully you're on a laptop with a cell phone, and you can screenshot some of these, and I have a couple QR codes. So the top toxins as we go into this is the main thing is we're going to start out with is conventional cleaners. And I have to take a moment to pause, because 2020 in my eyes is the year of toxicity, because everybody's been led indoors, which we already know is way worse air quality. There's mental, emotional stress with changing a culture. And then now the prevailing practice is that germs cause disease, and we have to use these harsh chemicals to sanitize and clean everything. And what's gone completely out the window is the absolute fact that your immune system is built based on exposure. Your immune system is built based on repetitive exposure and learning and cell-mediated memory. And we've completely lost sight of that as a country. So some of you on here, you're here to minimize toxicity, yet you still wipe the grocery cart with the name brand chemical cleaning wipe. And so we're going to go through that in a second here, because you can't keep exposing yourself to these cleaners and expect to stay healthy. So I'm going to back up one slide here. The main chemicals, PERC, so it's perchloroethylene, that are in these cleaners. That's one of the main ones you're going to see. There's formaldehydes in there. There's chlorines, which is ammonia products. Chlorine and ammonia products are what you're going to find in the bleaches and most of the name brand disinfectants. The problem is they can be extremely damaging to the health. They're linked to cancers based on repetitive exposure. They're linked to hormone imbalances, liver damage, because the liver has to clear these out, and then secondary sequelae, meaning the other mood disorders, the neurological disorders, the immune system dysfunctions that I listed earlier. And so I had a great conversation with Michael earlier today, and we were talking about the three main things you need to look at. And this is why I'm looking at the things that you're exposed to daily is the amount of toxic exposure. What is the quantity that you were exposed to? So, he mentioned today, breathing in asbestos one time is not going to cause mesothelioma. It doesn't work that way. Your body's too strong. But if you do it every day for decades, you're almost guaranteed. And so these chemicals work the same way. If you cleaned your bathroom 6 years ago with bleach and breathed it in that one time, it's not going to kill you. It's not good, but it's not going to kill you. But if you're weekly bleaching your bathroom, some of you daily using these products on your kitchen countertops and in your bathrooms, now you're in the danger zone. Now there are red flags flying everywhere. So what I've done is we just don't use them. None of these are found in my house. We use vinegar-based products, which I'm going to upload a non-toxic cleaning recipe guide. So you can see that here. I'll share that. So that's the non-toxic cleaning recipes. You can just click download on that. It's a PDF. And that's going to show you about 8 different household recipes that you can make using essential oils, using lemon juice, using sodium bicarbonate, baking soda, using vinegar, using these natural food-based compounds that you can literally eat. And they also have cleaning properties to them. You don't really require these super harsh chemicals. And by using them repetitively, you're guaranteeing that your body's going to have to detox them, and it's guaranteeing injury. And a lot of you have experienced it. You've used the bleach in a not well ventilated bathroom, and you're kind of wheezing afterwards or coughing a little bit, and you've got to listen to your body. This is your body rejecting these chemicals, literally rejecting these chemicals. The next thing I have to hit on. So the other cleaner I want to point out, we've been using a cleaner called Counterculture. And I'm not going to be like just brand naming on this, because some of the brands change their products. Some of the brands are bought out. They change their recipes. And then, maybe you don't want to buy the same brands as me. I'm just giving you some ideas to look at. And the name Counterculture is intentionally meant to say your kitchen countertop and a culture as in bacteria. And then obviously counterculture, meaning instead of cleaning it with a bleach-based disinfectant, you're actually cleaning the countertop with lactic acid from probiotics. So healthy bacteria secretes these acid compounds that can break down and degrade harmful things on your counter. So that's what we use on our counter. That's what's safe to be around my son. That's what's safe to be around me and my wife. I don't have to run to the sink after it gets on my hands. I don't have to wear gloves when I'm using it. These are red flags if you're having to do that. So we use that one. And then we also make a vinegar-based solution. You just buy an empty plastic spray bottle and make the recipe based on the handout I gave you there. And you just keep that under the sink. And that's, depending on the scent, the essential oils you want to mix into there, you can really customize how you want to make it. And that can be used in the bathroom. That can be used in the kitchen. That can be used on the tables. That can be used on the floors. And there's even a wood polishing recipe in there. So look through those recipes and swap those things out immediately. Disinfectants, which are being used more than ever. I was just at church this weekend, and they're offering it to everybody walking up to receive communion. And I said, no, thank you. But the fragrance, the colors, the propylene glycol solution in there are toxic. They're irritants. People that are very neurosensitive to this is absolutely an issue, and they'll notice it right away. The skin is the body's largest organ, and about 25% of these things get absorbed into the skin. The longer you leave it on the skin, the more it's going to absorb. So anyone who's tried to quit smoking using a nicotine patch, that's how they do it. Anyone who's done hormone replacement therapy using a patch, a transdermal, meaning you put the chemical on the skin, it soaks in through the skin into the bloodstream, and then affects the brain, affects the organs. Now it's part of your bloodstream. So that's how it works. So anything you put on your skin, you literally should have the ability to put it in your mouth. If you wouldn't put it in your mouth, you shouldn't put it on your skin. Now there's a few minor exceptions to that, like gentle soaps and things like that, but for the most part, I want you to visualize anything that goes on there. Yes, Michael's saying irritation means the chemical has penetrated the skin, interacted with the immune system, and triggered a response. So it's not just your hands are dry or they're irritated from the physical external source. Your body is reacting to the chemical by having an elevated immune response. Now, do that every day over and over and over again, and you're setting yourself up for cancers, autoimmune diseases, chronic repetitive viral infections, and you're creating a disaster. And we don't have time to go down the rabbit hole with disinfectants, but we are creating things called superbugs. So these things kill 99.9% of bacteria, and then that 0.1% is left resistant to the disinfectant to procreate and expand. And the same is true using antibiotics. And this is why the overuse and overprescription of antibiotics for decades now has created these antibiotic resistant bacteria strains like C. diff, like MRSA, which are termed hospital infections. They're hospital infections because these things can exist against the antibiotics trying to kill them. So by ubiquitously using these things everywhere on everybody, we're creating these super bugs that we're essentially killing the weak and allowing the strong to procreate. We're stacking the cards against ourselves here. So not good. So this is a little QR code. So if you're on a computer, just take your phone out, open up the camera, and it'll show you. If you're watching this on a big screen, you just hold your camera up to that, and it'll take you to the EWG website about cleaners. Now, EWG has gone through, based on some of the science that we have available, and rated 0, meaning these things have not shown or are extremely unlikely to be damaging or irritating to the body. And then a 10 or a 9 is you are red flag. These are known irritants. These are absolutely irritating and damaging the body in some way, shape, or form. So what you can do is you go on there and any cleaning product in your house, you can grab one from the kitchen right now, take the label and just type it in the search bar, and it'll pull it up and give it a rating and explain what these chemicals do. So I just pulled this one up as an example. It's an all-purpose cleaner spray with bleach. And again, it's got sodium hypochlorite, which is using this chlorine-based antiviral, antibacterial. And so I circled here in red, it gets an F. So the overall score of this thing is an F. And the problem is the high concern with sodium hypochlorite is it has acute aquatic toxicity, meaning this is going to stay in the aqueous solution in your blood, in water. It's water soluble. And it's going to, until your liver and body sweats it out, cleans it out, pees it out, and poops it out, you're toxic. And then the other concern is breathing it in is going to affect the lungs, and it's going to affect the tissue and getting in there. Remember, the big 3 ways these things get in is through the mouth, through the skin, and through the lungs. Mouth, skin, and lungs. You touch it, you eat it, or you breathe it. Okay? Now, the chlorine, some respiratory concerns, systematic organ effects, skin irritations, allergies, damage to vision. So these can actually cause vision issues. I mean, you just read through this. Systemic organ effects, cancer from the carbon tetrachloride that's used in there. And then it's going down, obviously, in less concerning. So this is an example of one readout of one cleaner. And I'm not bashing only this cleaner because guess what? There's over 200 of them that they've analyzed that all get Fs. They're Fs. And so you go on the other end of that, and that's where you'll see, like I was showing you, that counterculture one. And there's going to be a good handful, about 20, 30 different ones that you could literally put on your skin, and it's also going to clean the counter. You're not sacrificing anything, and you really want to use the same philosophy. Your internal environment, and this is where the chiropractic philosophy comes into this, and this is why chiropractors, this group Maximize Living I'm with, we want to learn about this. We want to teach you about this. We want to empower you about this, because the environment you choose to live in determines what your body has to respond to, and it changes your internal environment. So you use the same philosophy that you do to create inside health in your nervous system, your organs, and your blood as you do the outside health. So we know that causing sterility in a human being's gut by giving them antibiotics, and killing all their bacteria from their skin and in their gut creates opportunistic infections, meaning yeast, funguses, bad bacteria overgrowths like E. coli's, or even good bacteria like acidophilus will start growing too much because you wiped it out clean. Where now we know 50 years later that you need good bacteria, and the good guys around actually protect and preserve a balance to not allow the bad ones to grow. This same concept is being used, as we'll hit on in a second, in regenerative or biodynamic agriculture, where the more good guys that are around, the good pests, the bad ones can't be around. Where in industrial agriculture, we're getting rid of everything, and then we have to spray and kill, and now you get toxic food. So look up your cleaning products. Do this all tonight or tomorrow. You're going to be motivated after being on this, because the facts are right there in your brain. Take the steps now and get rid of this stuff. Do not dump it down the toilet or down the sink, please God, because then we all have to drink it. But get rid of it. Get it out of your house. Leave it in the container and throw it in the garbage. We have a lot of ladies on tonight, and one of the biggest concerns is cosmetics. So obviously cosmetics are put on the skin, and guys, I'm going to be hitting on some things because guys, we use lotions, we use deodorants, we use shave creams, we use all this kind of stuff, hair gels and lotions and sprays. The skin's the largest organ. Cosmetics are the biggest culprit because that's what's being put on the skin on a daily basis. Every day, our skin comes in with so many products, comes in contact with so many products. So there's a huge report called Heavy Metal Health Hazard, the risk of hidden heavy metals in face makeup. And so the Environmental Defense tested 49 different face makeup items, including 5 different foundations, 4 concealers, 4 powders, 5 blushers, bronzers, mascaras, 2 eyeliners, 14 eyeshadows, and 8 lipsticks. And they revealed this, okay? Hold on your seatbelts. Heavy metals, 96% of them contained lead, 90% contained beryllium, 61 thallium, 51 cadmium, and 20% had arsenic. And so you may not be familiar with all of these. Almost everybody knows about lead, from lead pipes and lead paint. And we realized very early on that lead is a toxin, and it interferes with hemoglobin. It interferes with oxygen delivery to the body and to the brain. Not good. 96% of those cosmetics had lead in them, on the skin, in the blood. 90% beryllium, 61% thallium. Thallium has been used actually as a silent killer, like an assassin would use thallium, like to poison somebody's drink without them knowing it. It's odorless, it's scentless, it's flavorless, and it's a neurotoxin. Cadmium is another heavy metal, and then arsenic. So these are neurotoxins that can lead to focus disorders, mood disorders, memory issues. And imagine you putting them all over your face every day like you are. And so what you need to do is you need to look at, there's a few companies out there. A lot of the females in my life use Beauty Counter. They're a responsible company that looks at why they're making their products, what's in them, and what are the effects. My wife is a big fan of a company called Credo, Credo, Credo. They are a private company that brings in things that they don't make, but they essentially have a curated, less toxic selection. And so what you're going to want to do is, again, cross-check these things. So this is the QR code that would bring you to ewg.org, environmentalworkinggroup.org/skindeep, SKINDEEP. And that website is going to show you everything on there in terms of, hey, I'm at the store, I found this product, what's in it, how's it affecting me, and what risk am I taking to look beautiful? For men, the big risk is those antiperspirant deodorants. They have aluminum in them. We are finding more and more aluminum in the blood. We are finding that aluminum is stored and sequestered by the body. And then when immune responses occur, the aluminum is coming with the white blood cells and can trigger these little microvascular injuries, little mini blood clots, essentially. So aluminum coming in through the underarm, aluminum coming in through your diet, through your cooking, huge problem and very, very omnipresent. It's everywhere. So what you do is you switch your deodorant out immediately. Now, I have found after years of testing deodorants out, my favorite one is made by this brand called Humble, Humble, Humble Brands. They're made in the US and they typically have 4 to 5 ingredients. They've got coconut oil, baking soda, they've got essential oils for fragrance in there. And you just check the labels on there. You could eat it if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it. But these deodorants literally work. They actually prevent odor. They're not going to prevent sweating, and we're going to get to why you would never want to prevent sweating, but they are going to prevent any odor that comes from sweating in the underarm. So, ladies and gentlemen, check out Humble Brands. They have both more male intended and female intended scents, but check those out. That's a great brand. There's a few other ones that you can make your own using coconut oil and baking soda. There's a couple other brands you could find at health food stores. But the big thing to look for is no aluminum. Aluminum gets into the brain, and they're now linking it to Alzheimer's. So stay away from aluminum. Bad. So another way to get aluminum in your body is by using cookware. That was one of my blind spots this year, actually, is we would still occasionally do salmon or something in the oven using aluminum foil. And one of my friends called me out on it. I was like, I wasn't even thinking. I've just always used it. So we immediately switched last year to using parchment paper. So parchment paper, switch out your aluminum foil to parchment paper. You actually get a little bit more of a crisp. It's got a unique cooking quality to it. So it's not like a sacrifice. Sometimes you make a sacrifice to do the healthier thing instead of doing the easy, convenient, toxic thing. In this case, it's an upgrade. So parchment paper, upgrade your kitchen by a big roll. You can use it for everything. Oven-wise, just you don't want to broil it. You don't want to set it on fire. PTFEs, polytetrafluoroethylene, is known as a forever chemical. This chemical does not show a half-life. It doesn't degrade. So we make these and they stay in our bodies, in our environment, in our water, in our soil, so far from what we've seen, forever. This is Teflon. This can cause chest tightness, breathing issues. It can cause chills, sore throat, scratchiness. Some of you have what you think is seasonal allergies, and instead you're having responses to these forever chemicals. And so immediately, right away, the first step is ditch the Teflon nonstick pans, switch them out to stainless steel. Switch everything you can to stainless steel. The only other thing you'd consider really cooking on would be cast iron. It's a little more difficult to use. It's got to be seasoned properly. And again, you don't want to be chipping at it with metal spatulas or anything. And then the other thing you could use is like a ceramic cookware where it's a hardened ceramic. It's not going to leach as much. But think about it. Your pot and pan that's sitting in your kitchen for the last 15 years, flaking those little bits of these chemicals off into your foods. You've been eating this and it's staying in your body forever. So they've actually been finding this chemical in disposable face masks. I was doing some research for this workshop, and we're no longer going to be using those. So use cotton or wool, something natural. It's got to be organic. Teflon products are carcinogenic. They've been correlated with cancer, and you've got to get them out. Get them out of the house immediately. This is a hard no. So exit conventional, and you're gonna need to maybe learn to use the heat a little bit better in the kitchen. You're gonna become a better cook, and you're gonna learn to clean a little bit deeper because these pots, they get a little more gunk stuck on them. So just be aware, but it's worth it. You're worth it. Microplastics, whether you like it or not, the average person in the US drinks 1,769 plastic particles from tap water on a daily basis. So microplastics are now destroying our oceans, and they are killing small creatures in the ocean because they're clogging up their gills and their breathing mechanisms. And this is becoming a massive global burden. But these things are in your body. They're causing an increase in kidney stones. So if you're a kidney stone person, check your plastics. This is the cup you're drinking out of. This is, you go through the drive-through at your favorite coffee shop and you get a hot beverage in a paper cup lined with a plastic coating, drinking through a number 6 black or white plastic lid, which is leaching plastic into your body. And you're doing this every single day, every day. So immediately, if you're going to get drinks at like a local shop or something, bring a stainless steel container and they'll fill it up. They'll make your drink in that. Stop using the plastic takeaway cups. The Norwegian Institute of Public Health found that 90% of those tested from 2016 to 17 had 8 different plasticizers in their urine. Plasticizers are colorless, odorless, and they're mostly falling under the category of a phthalate. And they're used to change the elasticity of the plastic. This is why different plastics, like number 6 and number 7, are some of the worst, 6s and 7s, because of the plasticizers. BPA, bisphenol A, is another plasticizer that has been called out. We realized after decades of using it that it's toxic, and now you see BPA-free, but guess what? They're using another plasticizer in it, otherwise they couldn't make the plastic, and it just hasn't been studied enough yet to say that it's bad. So avoid plastics like the plague. We use glass. At my house, glass is to drink out of, glass is to store our food. Stainless steel is my second option because you're not going to break it. So if I'm traveling or moving it around, or I'll use stainless steel, or like we said, going to get coffee or whatever it is. But watch out for toxins in the plastics. They are everywhere. You're storing your food in plastic bags. You're heating it up in a plastic takeout container from a restaurant. The restaurant used plastic wrap when they cut the cucumbers in the morning. So you got to minimize eating out. You got to minimize heating things up in plastic, minimize food storage in plastic. And this has to be really a massive effort on your part to get plastic out of your house and away from your family. It's even in the grocery bags you're putting your produce in. These microplastics are everywhere. And then by minimizing the use of them in your daily life, you're also minimizing the production of them, and you're minimizing long-term the amount of these things that are present in our environment. So we're not having to drink them in the water or have them in our groundwater, which is getting into our fruits and our vegetables. So you start to see the global burden of these things. And you really realize, man, yeah, microplastics amount to ingesting an equivalent of a credit card a year. That's a phenomenal stat. Phenomenal. So Scott's saying, what about BPA free? So far, BPA free is a better option, but that's like my 4th or 5th option. My number 1 option is I want a glass. My number 2 is I want a stainless steel. My number 3 is like I'd rather use like a bamboo or something else like that. Number 4 would be a BPA free plastic. I'm not putting any hot liquids in or anything hot for food storage. I'm using it only at room temperature. I'm hand washing it as to not melt it and mess it up in the dishwasher. And then I'm never, ever leaving anything in there, right? So you have it, drink it, get it over with, and then you're done. So minimize exposure there. Baking soda is not good for the skin. Is that true, or just a different ploy to keep us from using the toxic ones? Good question. Baking soda is one of those things, like same with vinegar. In excessive exposure, like you shouldn't be eating baking soda all day or just rubbing baking soda all over your skin. It's extremely alkaline. And then vinegar on the other end is extremely acidic. So these things are not neutral, but they're less irritating to the body and they're quickly neutralized. So they're less toxic. But again, baking soda in the underarm is irritating to some people. And that's why you're going to see a lot of these deodorant companies make a sensitive skin version that uses less of that or none of that. But some of the odor elimination capacity of the deodorant is coming from the baking soda. So it's kind of one of those things. It's lesser evil. You want to go with the lesser evil. Instead of BPA, they switched alternatives that turned out worse, but there wasn't the political will to go there and regulate them. Yes, and this is pretty much how everything happens in our society. And this is something that was discussed, by the geologist on the webinar that I mentioned earlier. Is we always create the technology because there's a demand for the product, but the technology is not tested for safety until oftentimes decades later when we start to see the results. So in an ideal world, we would come up with a new technology, we would put it through a testing for human safety, and then say, this is okay to use, and now we can use it. But the problem is, in a capitalistic society, that there's a sometimes decade-long delay, 5-year delay in releasing a product to market. So the motive is on the opposite side of that, saying, listen, it seems to be good enough. It's not killing anybody today, so let's release it to market. And then the testing comes years and years later, oftentimes when we find these little niche areas. And this is like what Michael and I were talking about today, is you find these niche exposures like professional hazards. The same thing that happened with lead, people painting with lead paints. The same thing that happened with lung cancers and mesotheliomas with exposure to asbestos. We didn't find out until the damage was done. So the same way you look at your foods is the same way you have to look at toxicity and saying, I want to use as close to a natural product as possible, and I want to minimize anything that seems like chemically obscure, that's not natural, that you wouldn't find in nature. So, we're looking at sunscreen. There's a question, hey, what kind of sunscreen should I use? The best sunscreen ever is shade, right? A hat, a shirt, an umbrella, a tree, get under a tree or an awning or something. The second best sunscreen ever is like a mild, if you have mild exposure, like you're going to be out there for 30, 40 minutes, not a big deal. It depends on your skin sensitivity, but some people can use coconut oil as a mild sunscreen. Now, the least toxic version is they use a titanium dioxide or a zinc oxide. I prefer zinc because it's a mineral that we require for our body to work properly. Titanium, I'm sure, has more negative repercussions because we don't have a basic nutritional amount of titanium we require every day. So zinc oxide sunscreens are some of the best, and they are a physical barrier. So they are physically refracting the light off of your skin to prevent damage. So not the nanoforms of titanium. Turns out it's a carcinogen. Yes. So again, it's like I wouldn't put aluminum on my skin for sunscreen. I wouldn't put lead, and titanium falls in the same category. So thank you, Michael. And the reality is zinc, that's almost a supplement. You're putting zinc, something you need and are most likely deficient in, on your skin to give your body what it needs. So that's the second best. And then the last ditch effort, you are out on a cruise ship. You ran out of healthy sunscreen. You can't wear a shirt because your shirt got knocked overboard. You're desperate. And that's when you use the toxic one to prevent burning. And if you did it once a year, it's not as big of a deal. So you just got to look again at the duration and intensity of exposure. How often are you exposing yourself? To what intensity are you exposing yourself? And are you giving your body some time to recover? And yeah, if you burn easy, the problem with being in Illinois is you do not have a lot of time to build up a melanin tolerance to the sun. So if you're in a sunny environment all year, you can do miniature exposures. Like my skin I'm not a sun person, right? I'm in the sun 30 minutes and that's it. Otherwise I need shade or sunscreen, right? But by the end of the summer, my skin, I could do maybe an hour and a half, and my skin builds up that resistance. It's an adaptation, and that's melanin, and that's called a tan. So the tanner you get, actually, the more natural sunscreen your body is building. So you want to build that up as it starts to get sunnier outside by doing smaller exposures during lesser bright, maybe 11 a.m. or 2 p.m., not a noon sunshine in July just beating right on you. So that's the advice for sun exposure, because we need it. We need it. So avoid plastic wrap, avoid the food storage containers, dusting and vacuuming a lot of that frequently. If you don't have a great filter, you don't clean the HEPA filters very often, you're kicking a lot of this stuff up in the air. And then you're also reusable grocery bags. You're putting this stuff on your foods. And then not only that, but you're contributing to more plastic waste in our environment, in our groundwater, all over the place. And as we segue back into water, the number one solution for water is this. You need a minimum of a shower filter. So the shower filter, it's a little adapter that screws on the water coming out of the wall before the shower head. And what it is, it's a carbon filter that's going to bring out some of the chlorine, maybe a little bit of the fluoride, not very much evidence on taking fluorides out, but chlorine and some of these other particles like microplastics are going to get caught up in the carbon filter. So I use one by Culligan, 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 the water company. I think it's like $30, and you replace the filter every 6 months, and it covers everything you need. And I can tell a difference when I go on vacation. I shower without it. My skin is more dry and more irritated, obviously depending on where I'm located. So water filter in the shower. Second thing you have to do is get a drinking water filter that you're going to use for drinking and you're going to use for cooking. So this is going to go in the kitchen, or if you have like a separate area, you can install it really wherever you want. They'll put a little countertop spigot, and then there's a separate dedicated filtration system that goes underneath the countertop. And that's where you're going to make a tea, you're going to make coffee, you're going to drink some water, you're going to cook and boil some vegetables or make some kind of, cooking. You use that water to cook with. We use reverse osmosis. This is the most reliable way to eliminate everything bad in the water. And then the only caveat is the water needs to be remineralized. So you're going to add back in the minerals that you took out through reverse osmosis. And I use that. We use a brand from the Mortier. It's the best system, Mortier Health, Mortier, Mortier. And they make a product called Trace Minerals. That's a great one. You can get Trace Minerals at like a vitamin shop. They get out of the, I think they're actually out of Utah. They get them out of the Great Salt Lake there. Or you can just use like a Celtic sea salt, do a couple crunches of that in there. It shouldn't be so much minerals that it really affects the taste. You just need a little bit as a buffer to slightly bring that alkalinity back to the water and prevent leaching. You don't want the water to be pulling minerals out of your cells and out of your system. So on an average, you expose yourself to 25 gallons of toxic, contaminated water, and you're absorbing about 25% of the chemicals that are in that water. If you use tap water every day, brushing your teeth, washing your hands, showering, cooking, drinking, they found over 84,000 chemicals, including pesticides, chlorines, volatile organic compounds. These are called VOCs in your water. So this is getting on you and getting in you, and you've got to be aware of this. This is one of the biggest, your cookware, your food storage, and showers, your water. 15-minute shower is equivalent to drinking 8 glasses of harmful water. Why? Because your skin is absorbing the water that's being put on you. Think about it. Hot water produces steam and is now aerosolizing these chemicals as well. So you're literally breathing them. And these are cancer-causing chemicals. So shower filter, reverse osmosis, or at a minimum, you can get a multi-stage carbon-based filter for the drinking water, cooking water. And you should use that to rinse your vegetables with. I mean, you got to be really careful about that. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on food just because I feel like we've hit this in a few other ways, but toxins in food are one of the main sources that your body is getting toxified. MSG, monosodium glutamate, is a neurotoxin. It is in a lot of foods. Everybody thinks it's only in Chinese food. That's a fallacy. In fact, most places don't even use it. Where you're going to find it the most is in savory food items where they're trying to create that umami on the palate. The number one sneaky place is chips, barbecue chips. You're going to see it every time. And it's going to be written in about 16 different ways. Autolyzed yeast extract, glutamic acid. They'll write it as that. They'll write it as yeast protein isolate, yeast nutrient. I mean, there's tons of different ways if you Google MSG and the sneaky ways it gets in your food. It's in there. Aspartame, anything that's sugar-free has aspartame in it. Just assume that. Aspartame is a neurotoxin as well. It affects your brain, and it's in all the sugar-free chewing gums, the diet sodas, the anything sugar-free that sounds too good to be true. You are getting played by marketing. And when it comes to foods, you guys, don't ever buy a food based on what it says on the front of the label. Read the back. The front of the food is marketing. It's marketing. So a natural, sugar-free food product sounds so good. And then you flip it over and realize anything can be natural. The tires on my car are natural, and that doesn't mean I'm going to eat them. So you read the back of the label and find out it's got aspartame in it. It's got these artificial colors, red lake, this, yellow 5, blue this. These are also toxins. Highly refined oils, sunflower oil, safflower oil, cottonseed oil, canola oil. These are everywhere in any packaged food you're ever going to eat. So you've got to eliminate them from the body. They get incorporated into your cell walls in the phospholipid bilayer. These are damaged, mutilated fats. So it's the analogy is building a house out of wood, rotten, wet, soggy, and full of termites. It's unstable and they don't provide function. So a damaged cell wall made out of these toxic fats leads to damaged cell physiology, which is how the cell works. And bad cell physiology leads to cancers and other disorders. So if you are eating foods to build your body, they need to be food by God, not food by man. And what that means is this is the easiest rule to just walk through the grocery store. If you can hold the food in your hand and it grew on this planet, it was grown organically in accordance to how it should have been grown without sprays and chemicals and additives. It wasn't genetically modified to be resistant to different sprays and chemical pesticides and herbicides. It wasn't made into some fortified or highly processed manufactured procedure. Then it's a food by God. And that's okay to eat. And if you're eating a packaged food, it should be made up of other little foods by God. So today I ate this bar from Epic, and it's got wild raised pork, it's got eggs, and it's got apple. Those are 3 food by God, right? Actually, it's chicken, apple, and I think it was chicken and apple. But you get my point. You want to make it out of other foods by God. So read the labels, read them for food by God, and ignore all the food by manufacturing, food by man. You don't want any of that garbage in you. Nitrates are mostly found in processed meats, deli meats, things like that. They are linked to cancer. They cause a lot of problems. So you'll see ones that are labeled nitrate free. Get whole organic foods instead. Chips, pretzels, all these other things are going to be made with bad oils. There's really only 2 companies that make them with either organic coconut oil or avocado oil. If you're going to eat a chip, it's got to be out of those 2 oils. And you really shouldn't be eating chips. Not a good thing to be eating all the time. I'm going to touch lightly on mineral depletion and industrial farming, because I talk about this all the time with people. Is we've now living in a time it's hard, it's annoying. We have to almost micromanage some of our nutrients. We have to take a multivitamin. I have to take a vitamin D every day. I'm taking a B complex. I'm taking probiotics. I'm taking omega-3 fats for my brain, because these things are not as common in our diets and they're not in the soils anymore. So there are legitimate reviews that state 99% of the population is deficient in magnesium. And how could that be true? It's because it's not in the soil. So if the plants don't have it in the soil to extract it and give it to you, then it doesn't exist in you. And this is why magnesium and zinc and some of these other minerals are so deficient, immunocompromising people. This is a huge problem we've been having. So I get in these conversations all the time. You say, yeah, doc, I know you're teaching me the body has everything it needs to heal. The body self-regulates, and it's an unbelievable creation. But if it doesn't get what it needs from the environment, then it can't work right. So you have to look at both from the outside and the inside is, yes, is my nervous system functioning right? Is my body able to heal and self-regulate without interference? But if I don't have my B vitamins, my cells don't work right. I don't make those. If I'm not in the sun or supplementing vitamin D3, I don't make that stuff. So I need to supplement it. And so when we look at supplements, these can be a huge, huge issue because they can be toxic. And so I'm going to walk you through in a little bit about regenerative farming, but two of the things that we've been doing over the years that have really, I guess, emotionally felt congruent for me is we've been doing a CSA based out of northwestern Illinois. It's actually just kind of north central Illinois, but it's called Angelic Organics. And they're not the only CSA, but they're one of many that are using these regenerative farming practices. There's biodiversity. They grow different crops. They rotate where they're grown. They compost and regenerate the soil. They're not turning it over and letting topsoil blow off like most of these industrial farms are. So the nutrients I'm getting, you can literally look, taste, and feel the difference when you're eating these foods because they were grown in such nutrient-rich farmland. So we use that as our CSA, and it's actually going to be starting up here pretty soon, where they send us a box every week, or you can choose every other week, and you're getting fresh, locally grown produce delivered to your door every week or every other week, and you can sleep good at night. As far as meats, I have a few people that I know who use Butcher Box, and then more locally here to the Chicago area is Slagle Farms. They provide a lot of the high-end meats to some of the local restaurants, and they recently just started a CSA that we're going to be doing. So Slagle, Slagel Farms is another option for looking for good regenerative farming. Toxic bioaccumulation is a phenomenon. So the higher up the food chain you go, these toxins are stored in us and passed on. This is so dramatic because we've studied this in humans. We're at the top of the food chain. Umbilical cord blood in newborns has almost 300 different toxic chemicals in it. This means a child born now has inherited the toxic accumulation of great grandma, grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, and now passing it on to this generation. It is a snowball effect. And that's why we're seeing this new generation being sicker than ever before. And I, thank God, get to see these kids get healthy when we look at their spine and nervous system, when we look at what's going into their bodies. But this is a desperate situation where if you're of the age where you're looking to have a kid in the future, or you already have kids and you're not practicing these things that we're teaching on now, you're setting up the next generation for failure. So it is vitally important that, number one, you're eliminating these toxins. Number two is you're implementing some strategies, which I'm going to hit on here, to remove the stuff that's in you. And this isn't that difficult, actually. My wife and I actually just ran our most recent toxicity profile. It's a heavy metal and a toxicity panel, and it's done via blood spot through ZRT Labs, and we just ran that 2 months ago. And thank God our heavy metals are low, and there's a couple actual deficiencies for me in selenium right now that I'm working on fixing. But I don't guess, I test. And the number one thing to do is if you're concerned about these things, you have ongoing symptoms, and you've tried to eliminate and try to use some of these strategies, you need to talk to me about doing some testing, and we can look underneath there and see what's going on in your blood, what is present, and then set up a specific plan to remove some of these. If you're looking more to just generally protect your kids, you get them on the kids detox, get them on probiotics, get their food containers cleaned up. You don't want to be using we're using bamboo mostly for my son right now, and we're making sure that he's eating things that are cooked in either reverse osmosis water in a stainless steel pot, or we're using bone broth from naturally raised animals. So implementing these strategies are essential for this next generation. Are you toxic? Some of you, you're trying, and hats off. You're doing the right thing. You're trying to supplement and give your body what it needs, but you're taking supplements that are toxic. You get what you pay for. They're loaded with artificial sweeteners, a lot of them. They're loaded with flavors and colors. They have low bioavailability, meaning they are not formulated to emulate nature. So they're not giving you the right nutrients so you can absorb them. You're running them through your body. You're running them through your blood. They're coming out through the kidneys. They're coming out in your waist, and you're essentially creating work for your body instead of helping it by supplementing. So some of these supplements that are not regulated very tightly, these brands don't really care. They're throwing whatever in there, and that's what you're taking. And if you're interested, you just go on your search engine. Hopefully you're using DuckDuckGo, and you search in there headlines about, what's in my supplements, toxins and healthy supplements, and you'll see these news articles, and they're there. And you'll find these reports of what they're finding in there. What's on the label's not in there because they're not doing testing on bioavailability, on what the product actually turned out to, potency, and what's in there can't be absorbed properly due to either mutations like MTHFR, or they're just heated up so dramatically that now the nutrient is damaged. So my point is you have to know what to look for in a supplement. You've got to look at the labels and know how to read that. And so first of all, it has to have no artificial colors, no artificial flavors, no other additives. Okay. So one of the number ones that's easy to spot is like a protein powder. It'll have artificial sweeteners like aspartame or sucralose in it and say sugar-free. So it's sugar-free, but it's neurotoxic. Saccharin is another one in there. Artificial colors like red 40 and yellow 5, yellow 6. So you got to look for these different things. Watch out for harmful ingredients and other additives. Like some of them use maltodextrin, which is garbage, overproduced, non-organic GMO corn extracts that they're putting in there as fillers. So these are called fillers. And so I'm making you aware of this because all the things that I preach, I'm doing them in my own house, in my own family. And I'm lucky enough to know the people at Maximize Living who are in charge of going to our manufacturers, ensuring that we are approved, ensuring that we are testing bioavailability, ensuring that, here, let me show you this. Our brand promise, we are GMP certified, FDA registered. Now, FDA doesn't monitor this stuff, but to say, hey, we're going to step up and register so they're aware of what we're doing makes a big difference. And then really the biggest one is NSF certified because that requires annual renewal, inspections of the facilities and everything. But really the brand promise is we're going to make supplements to use for our families, for people like you who are discerning. They understand what goes into a good product. They value their health. They're wanting to invest in their health. And they're realizing that sometimes the best thing isn't the cheapest thing. Now, I also brag all the time. We're also not the most expensive, which is phenomenal. But these are state of the art. And you'll notice if you've been coming to see me for years, the supplements will change. What's in them will change. The actual molecule forms will change as we get more data, as we find out about bioavailability, as we find out different lab technologies for processing these foods and making them more available to your body. They'll always be a GMO free. They will always be gluten free. They actually list on there no shellfish, no gluten, no eggs, no soy, no artificial colors, no. So we're very aware of all these different toxins and sensitivities. So just check your supplements and stop poisoning yourself with something you think is actually good. One of the supplements that I wanted to hit on tonight, if you've never done it, is the detox system. So the detox system, it's a formulation. So it's combining two different strategies. And that's what makes it really unique. And there's literally no other product like it that I've ever seen so far. You're taking in the morning what's called cell detox. And the cell detox is a liver support and a antioxidant support that's going to provide your body with the nutrients it needs to protect against oxidative stress and cell damage. But it's also going to eliminate some of these toxins that end up in the bloodstream by binding them. And I'll explain in a second. So it's using chlorella, milk thistle, it's using spirulina, glutathione, catalase, superoxide dismutase. So these chemicals, when you look on the actual label, you can look into these. Glutathione is known as the master antioxidant, cell protector, prevents your cells and mitochondria from DNA damage. Catalase, very similar, cell protecting antioxidant. Superoxide dismutase works inside the cell as well, protecting, anti-aging, and regenerating the cells. And then chlorella and spirulina, milk thistle, the chlorella actually binds and can pull toxins out of the body. Spirulina is a chlorophyll oxygen donor. So this is another way to protect against some of these chemicals getting into the blood and into the system. And so that's floating around in you all day. You take the cell detox in the morning on an empty stomach, and it floats around in there and helps your cells out all day. Now, where does all this garbage go during the day? Through the liver, kidneys, and into the gut. And now that's part two, is the body detox works on the gut. So if you're not binding and eliminating and moving the bowels, these toxins can reabsorb and recirculate and redistribute back into the body. So what we use is psyllium husk, flaxseed meal, glucomannan, And these things help move the bowels and bring water to the bowels, magnesium. And then the most unique is an activated charcoal. So this is an activated carbon that actually has a magnetic pull to it that can bind and then eliminate in your feces the toxic waste. So there's 3 ways to use this. Way number 1 is, in the most advanced and the most observant way to use it, is you get a toxicity panel ran, find out how bad you are. Based on how bad you are, you follow one of the detox protocols, and then you retest it and you can see the results. Second best way to do it is, you've been alive for a few decades or more. You've never, ever done a cellular detox. You've never, ever supported the antioxidant system. You've never done any activated charcoal, psyllium husk, any of the flax meal to move the bowels and clean out. You can assume you're toxic. And you can just do 1 to 3 months of this detox system. 1 box will last you 30 days. And that's going to get you ahead of where you are. And you'll feel different. You'll have better energy. You'll be less inflamed. You'll wake up less stiff, more mental clarity. These are all the things that I hear from people that do the detox. And then the third way is, you can kind of dabble, do like a 1 month with it, or a slower dose. In fact, some of you are exposed very regularly at work to high toxins. I actually advise you to go slow. So instead of taking 2 a day right away, you'd actually do a half dose, and this box would last you 60 days. 60 days. So I don't know if any of you have done this before or have any like testimonials or experience with the detox, but if you do, write it in the chat box. I'd love to hear, because this product's been around now for a few years. This is the 3rd iteration of it, the 3rd formulation, and it's working better than ever on testing that I see with people to pull this stuff out. So this is ultimately supporting your immune system and protecting you against the effects of these toxins that you're getting exposed to. So couple different pointers on there. Mindset is another way that you can be toxic. And we teach the 5 essentials that maximize living: core chiropractic, nutrition, minimizing toxicity, lean body mass, and mindset. So you got to move the body right, but you also have to have toxic negativity eliminated from your life. Negativity right now, my biggest advice about this, and what I'm hearing the most from people, is you got to pull the plug on your social media. You got to pull the plug on your social media. It's gone from a connection to some of the people that you love and care about to mostly just a public diary or complaining negativity journal for most people. So my advice is the groups that you're a part of, clearly you chose those groups because you agree with what they say, or they're like-minded individuals. Go on there and hang out in your groups and talk to people in your groups. We have a group for the office that we've been using during our challenges. That's a group of like-minded individuals that care about their health. They want more for their life. That's a positive thing. Scrolling through your news feed and reading ads all day is not good for your mental health. You need to get outside, you need to move, and you need to get out of that social media cycle. So detox the mind. It's not about technology being the existential threat. It's technology's ability to bring out the worst in society. And the worst in society is the existential threat. And so you're becoming aware, the longer you sit and read that stuff, of all the worst things in society. It's like watching the news, and it creates a dystopia or an ultimate negative reality that's literally depressing your mood, changing your hormones, and toxicity for your brain is being created. And this is a co-founder of the Center for Humane Technology. This guy used to be a Google design ethicist. And guess what he had to do? Leave Google and create this now board where they're saying, hey, how can we regulate the same way the FDA is supposed to be and the EPA is supposed to be regulating these toxicities? How can we regulate some of the toxicity on technology? I totally feel different after using this for 1 month. I'm on month 2 now, lost 5 pounds, and I know it's been a true, so that's about the detox system. Phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, some of you don't even realize you're hanging on to about 5 to 10 pounds of inflammation because your body is putting these toxins aside and keeping them away safely from your brain and from your organs, but they're just sitting there until you get them out. And one of the ways to get them out, sweat. Like I said earlier, you don't want an antiperspirant because you want to sweat. And guess what? Sweat is one of the number one ways you actually eliminate bisphenol A, BPA. So if you're not working out, you're not sweating at least 5 days a week, one of your main detox pathways is not working. The other one is your urine. So your urine, you need to be staying hydrated enough to eliminate waste through the urine, and you need to be having 2 to 3 bowel movements per day if that's how many meals you eat. So you should have the same amount of bowel movements, give or take 1, as the meals you eat. You eat 2 meals, you should move your bowels twice. So this is another one. So same results as Vania. Highly recommend the detox. Scott, while doing the detox, do you stop all other supplements while doing this? So the answer to that is no. The only thing that I would say is, based on the activated charcoal, is when you take the body detox about an hour before you go to bed, take that by itself. Take that by itself and let it work in the gut. But it's really not gonna affect. The activated charcoal is mostly for these heavy metals and non-organic compounds, where all the other, like the B vitamins and the foods you're eating, these are what are called like organic compounds, organic chemistry versus inorganic. So it's not going to interfere. It's not going to interfere. That's a great question. Yeah. Am I taking it and then it's immediately getting eliminated? That's called a waste of money or expensive feces. But I've talked on this over and over again. And if you're interested in learning more, I've got a webinar up on my YouTube channel. You just look up my name, Dr. Daniel Moynihan, and you'll see on the YouTube there, exercise and immunity. And I put all this stuff together for you in an at-home program. You don't need any equipment. You just need your body weight. And you can get these exercises for detox, for hormone balancing, and for lean body mass done in 12 minutes a day. And that's not it's too good to be true thing. It's literally that easy. Literally that easy. So, and then the other thing, obviously I'm talking to a group of people who I clearly, I know you guys because I adjust most of you, but health, the definition of health is not how you feel, it's how you heal. So some of you, as you begin to get adjusted, as you begin to do the detox, as you clean up your diet, you remove the plastics, you change your cookware, you filter your water, you start implementing these things, you get out your garbage cosmetics, you're going to start functioning better. And you may feel stiff, sore, tired, achy, exhausted for a little bit, but that's healing. So you don't always feel good when you're healing. The best example is when you're fighting off an infection, you have a fever, your body gets hot, you get sweaty, you lose your appetite, you're exhausted and tired, and we say, I'm sick, something must be wrong with me. Where the reality is, what's right with you? Your body's changing over its resources to killing whatever's growing inside of you. It's shutting down digestion to save energy. It's heating your body up to boil up and kill the bacteria or virus. It's making you tired, so it forces you to rest. So part of this process is honoring you were made right. Your body was made to heal and function. It's just being forced to live in a toxic, unnatural environment. So the closer you get to that environment, the faster you're going to start functioning properly, the better the body heals. And we know the master healer, the master control system is the nervous system. Your nervous system doesn't make you nervous. You know, this reminds me of my grandma. I'm just nervous. I've got nerves. The reality is you do have nerves. They run everything in your body. And when they're heightened and irritated and stimulated, you don't work right. When they're calm and relaxed, the body works the right way. So the adjustments are going to bring you back into a state of rest, relax, digest. They're going to open up the pathways that feed your brain. And ultimately, you know, we're talking about supplements. Somebody who's got a healthy spine, healthy nervous system, functioning the way they were made to, is going to use, assimilate, and work right when you give them a supplement. Somebody who's subluxated, their neck curve is reversed, they don't sleep well at night, they're getting headaches, sinus problems, anxiety, there's gut issues, there's pain, there's achiness all over the body. Your body's not working right. So before you go and spend all your money on supplements and looking for quick fixes, you need to get to the underlying cause of your lack of function, which is your spine and nervous system. And so by optimizing spine and nerve function first, you allow the body to heal. Healing is automatic. It's just what level are you healing at? Then you can add in some of these supplements to make up for deficiencies. And obviously the big ones that I always recommend are vitamin D, a good multivitamin, a good food-based multivitamin. And that's what we make at Max Living. And then also getting on a great, healthy, clean omega-3 source for the brain and for the nervous system to heal. So those are some of the basics. But your body can't work right if you're subluxated and damaged and shifted out of position. So the first step is you got to get the body to heal. These are just some of the warning signs. Like if you're having these issues, headaches, menstrual problems, acid reflux, food intolerances, allergies, asthmas, ear infections, some of your kids, frequent colds, constipation, sleep issues, eczema or skin issues, neck pain, dizziness, numbness, tingling. These are red flags that you are toxic, you are not living the 5 essentials, and you are not on the way to health. Okay? So step 1 is obviously you need to know what your nervous system looks like, and thank God you probably do if you're on this webinar. Step 2 is you need to analyze your diet. Eat God foods, not man foods. Eliminate the garbage and start living the advanced plan. We have the book at the office, Align Your Health, teaches everything you need to know about the advanced plan, shopping guides, how to get all this stuff into the kitchen, cook it right, eat it right. Step 3 is start adding in the Max T3 high intensity workouts. Step 4, change your mindset. Start looking at the positives. Get away from this negativity, the social media, the news media. Get around people that are like-minded. Join the Facebook group, People of Planet Chiropractic. Get involved with a community of people that care. And then obviously the theme of today is minimize these toxins in your life. That is the recipe. These are not my rules. I didn't make this up. These are the rules of the earth. And as long as we follow them, you will optimize your function and health on this earth. So my biggest advice leaving this is you need to take action immediately today. Otherwise, nothing is going to change. So you need to go to your kitchen, get rid of the Teflon, get rid of the toxic cleaners, download the recipe guide for the natural cleaners, or go on EWG and do some searches for some cleaner ones that you can use at your house. You need to go through and get a water filter, whether it's a carbon filter for the shower, a whole house system, if you have the availability to do that, or you can use under the sink reverse osmosis for your drinking water. Start right there. You need to clean out your personal care products. Look at your cosmetics on ewg.org. Figure out which ones are heavy metal laden and potentially causing disease in your body, and switch them out. If you can wear less, right? Change out your deodorants, change out your lotions, change out your soaps. A soap should be basic. It should be a healthy fat. There's going to be a chemical in there that changed the fat into a soap through saponification, and then maybe some essential oils, and that's it. Clean out your soaps, your shampoos. Check them on ewg.org/skindeep. Check your supplements. Look for artificial flavors, fillers, corn products like maltodextrin. Go through all these products and clean out the garbage ones. Stop taking them. Get rid of this conventional mentality that you need to finish taking the one that you bought. You're wasting your body on taking something you shouldn't even be putting in it. So get rid of the garbage stuff. Get rid of the garbage foods, the chips in your pantry that have MSG, autolyzed yeast extract, the chewing gum in your car with aspartame, poisoning your brain. Swap out your plastics for glass. Swap out your containers for drinking for stainless or glass. And these are the main takeaways, you guys. If you know you're toxic, get on the detox system. Usually 1 to 3 months. If it's the first time doing it, I recommend 3 months. You will notice a big difference. But do not detox without stopping the retox. You've got to stop the upstream, everything pouring in, if you're going to take the time, the money, the energy to detox. So these are the steps. Start sweating, working out. The weather's changing. Get outside. Enjoy the outside. Get some sweat going. And make this thing a new lifestyle habit. And then if you're like me, you're still going to find little things that you're doing wrong, like my aluminum foil to parchment paper, but you can't beat yourself up. You just got to realize that every single day you're going to learn something new. And if you're doing it right, it's going to keep getting better and better and better every year. And you're going to have the health to show for it.